6 o'clock.
Okay.
Please rise. This meeting will come to order for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the roll.
Benjamin. Here. Veronic.
Here.
Baylor.
Here.
Kasdorf.
Here.
Holman. Sardina.
Here. Is there anyone desiring to be heard? Come on up, your name, and you'll have 3 minutes.
My name is Bob Johnson. I live on 5130 North 127th Street. Actually, this is to say thank you to the board and to our police officers. A couple of weeks ago, I brought up a thing about safety and kind of noise pollution with kids with their mini bikes and off-road vehicles. And since then, I've been getting text messages saying thank you. It was a great Mother's Day and it was quiet, so I don't know what we all did, but I guess it's really much appreciated through Butler. The thing I have, is this going to be a village ordinance or a law to maybe continue this? We got school that's getting out in a month from now, and the kids are going to be with a lot of things nothing to do. So my concern is, will this be continuing, or is this a temporary the solution before we take care of it? That's all what I'm going to say. But thank you.
I'll just, I can't get into a full discussion on it, but the police are aware and we are working on ordinances and making sure that it is a little bit calmer.
It was much appreciated by all the neighbors. So thank
Good.
you very
Agreed.
much appreciated.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And Mr. Johnson, I would say if you stay till the end, you can, or maybe you can speak to Captain Benson out in the hallway, but he can provide you a little bit of background on some of the enforcement mechanisms that we have in place for those types of vehicles.
I think we were talking a little bit before. Coffee with a cop. No, he can have coffee at my house anytime.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Anyone else desiring to be heard? Please come forward. Your name.
Hey, Susanna Schroeder. My address is on file. I'm your library director. So I wanted also to say thank you. Just to let you guys know, the train festival was on Saturday, the 25th. Raise your hand if you were there. Woo-hoo. Thank you. Thank you.
Pretty
Thank you.
cool too.
So I wanted to say thank you to everybody who showed up. And also, I really appreciate the partnership with Brookfield Fire Department. Having the truck show up was really awesome. Granted, people flocked to me immediately because they were just like, the fire department's here. Like, what's happening? It's like, they're here for us. Don't worry, we're good. It was a great day. So I just want to say thanks to the fire department, to the police department. Also, we kind of had like a safety walkthrough ahead of time. Got all the barricades set up. Nobody got hit by a car. Can I get a round of applause for that, right? I was really happy with that. But I also wanted to let you know that 505 people came to my event. So that was 3 hours that we were open. 505 people showed up at Butler Public Library. We had 600 people by the end of the day, which was really awesome. It was an incredible community experience. The Community Foundation, also I want to give them a shout out. Marilyn was amazing to work with at the Clark House. And so it was really interesting to hear how many people who have lived here a long time who've never been in the caboose. And so I think it was also a really awesome opportunity to let people get into the Clark House, see what it's all about, and then also get into the caboose, and then obviously stop at the coolest place in town, the Butler Public Library, and check out all of the different train setups that we had. So, and I also wanted to give a shout out to the Friends because they were really good partners in this also with helping us with all of our volunteering, especially with cookie decorating. Actually, there's somebody in here right now who helped with the cookie decorating. Thanks, Jan. So just again, it's a really good program, a really good opportunity for everybody in Butler to come out, see the library, kind of have a little taste of our train history here. And I just want to say thanks. It was a good time. Next time, perhaps more of you could show up. Just, just throw that out there. With love, Susanna. Okay.
Thank you. Anyone else to be heard?
Nice job.
None. Consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
On opposition, say nay. Motion passes. Communications, anything other than the department reports?
No, sir.
Committee reports, building board.
Building board met this evening at 5:20. We approved the fence permit, which had been tabled. That was for Cortland Avenue LLC, located at 12625 West Cortland Avenue. Then we approved occupancy permits for Metro Elevator, 12855 West Silver Spring, Suite A. Also for Industrial Roofing Services LLC at 13000 West Silver Spring. We approved 3 new fence permits, one for Naomi North at 4677 North 126th Street. Second one was for Edgar and Deborah Locke at 5139 North 126th. And the third one was for Craig and Donna Wallace at 5078 North 127th Street. And then finally, 2 sign permits. One was for the Butler Inn at 12400 West Hampton, and the other sign permit was for Rio Fresh, 12513 West Hampton Avenue. End of report.
Thank you. Community events.
No new report. The meeting was postponed to later in the week.
Thank you.
Report.
Finance committee.
Finance committee met a few minutes ago, and we approved April invoices of $328,025.74. We also statements of revenues and expenditures. We'll pass that board for approval and a report.
Thank you. Library board.
Library board met Monday, the 11th at 6 o'clock. I can cut out the whole train fest thing. So that takes care of a lot of this report. Items review were the quarterly technology, the endowment investors letter, and unattended child's play finance report. Other items that we approved were the library records policy, collection development, and the secretary and treasurer reelected. Next meeting is June 9th. End of report.
Thank you. Community Foundation met last week. We will be looking for 2 members for openings. And then we have Train Fest. We were participating in that, and that was a success, as you heard. End of report. Reporting the administrator.
We have several items to mention here. We are creating an addressing ordinance for the village. Currently, there is not one on the books on how addresses are created and implemented, who enforces the ordinances. There's also no type of requirement that addresses be displayed on any type of building. This came about through a combination of, I believe, a building board meeting ago or so. We discovered that one of the businesses that were coming before us did not have an address on the building, combined with some issues that the police and the fire department were having with trying to place certain subunits of buildings in there for the community assisted dispatch system. So we're going to be coming forward probably in June with an addressing ordinance to kind of clarify some of that. We did out our stormwater audit with the state. We got audited, if you remember, last August. We finally were able to close that out recently with the obtaining of signed documents from Cargill and I believe Go Right Way with their BMPs. And we actually became kind of the reference point for some municipalities who then the state referred to on how to get compliance with the audit, because it's a little bit difficult where the BMP be signed by the business owners and you can't really force signatures on that type of stuff. So we were able to use our contacts and get that accomplished, which was actually very impressive to the state. So I'm very happy about that. We did get awarded today our GFOA Best Practices in Budgeting Award, which we have gotten now, I think, for the past 10 or 11 years, if I'm not mistaken. So that's great. Water billing will happen likely in the first week of June. They did the meter reads earlier this week. And we are going to be doing union negotiations tomorrow at 11 a.m. End of report.
Thank you. New business. Item A, interview applicant for the village trustee seat vacated by former trustee Pat Tarks.
So as we discussed in the last meeting, Trustee Tarks vacated her seat due to personal reasons, was reelected, but then was not able to sit. So we opened that up to appointment. We opened that up for the applications last meeting. We received one application, which is before you in the village board packet, and she is present. So if you would like to have her come up and kind of speak about herself and ask her some questions.
Come on up. You must be Caitlin.
Thank you.
Thank you all for having me.
So did you have, we have your application, you know, we all had a chance to read it. Do you have any questions for us as to what, I mean, you're qualified, so do you have any,
Thank you.
do you have any questions for us as to like the board or, what the village board does or committees or anything like that for us? Or?
Well, I've seen a little bit. I think my main question is, what is an area that you think could be improved? Because I do have qualifications in finance, right? I can come speak and listen to all the constituents, but what's an area that you think you would like me to bring or help make better?
Just your point of view, actually.
Yeah.
We need everybody's different point of view.
Mhm.
That's why we have a different group up here.
I agree. I think that's, some people ask, like,
Well,
it's a bad thing when people argue, and I'm like, no, I think it's
no,
great. You all have
it's,
different points.
everybody has a point of view, and we like to make sure everybody agrees.
Mhm.
And it's not just finance. I know you had put on here finance, but it's basically running the village. You would be one part of that. Just you would have a say in a discussion, and it takes a little while to get used to it or figure out what the issues are, and we just kind of tackle them each week or every other week.
Mhm. Yes, I was treasurer of my sorority, and I know that sounds a little silly, but let me tell you, managing 200 girls set me up for a lot of
Impressive.
different opinions.
Impressive.
And here, like a lot of the stuff that we do is we filter it all through the front office with Ben and Aaron. So then we kind of figure out what the hot topic is or what we need to discuss, and
Mhm.
we try to take it one at a time. And you see that at the last meeting, there's a lot of thought put into a lot of the items. There's some that have good discussion, and others, just go right through. So
Yeah,
it really
sure,
depends.
but, I mean, the good discussion, right? Something so small as a bicycle made a difference for
Yeah.
a lot of people in the community. So
Yeah.
a little discussion.
So-
mattered.
It just takes a little getting used to it. It's not, we'll definitely walk you through it. Does anyone else have any other questions or comments?
No, I'm more than satisfied.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Item B, new business. Discussion and possible action on appointment of trustee to fill the seat vacated by former trustee Tarks to fill term ending on April 18th, 2028.
I'll just add that if the board approves the appointment of Ms. Speaker, what will happen is she will not have any committee assignments until June when those are approved by the board. So she'll obviously be able to be sat and serve on the board, but the committees before the board meeting, she won't be able to sit on until they're approved during the consent agenda on the 16th. Just putting that out there.
We do need to make note of her name change because she just did get married.
Oh.
So she's no longer Miss Speaker.
Okay, perfect. Can you provide me with that just because I'm going to be setting up an email and it's trustee last name? Perfect.
So we need that name for the motion though, right?
I would say no,
Oh,
because it's not
just
legally
by
changed yet.
application? Okay.
Yep.
I'll make a motion to appoint Caitlin Speaker to the vacated trustee position.
I'll second that motion.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
On opposition, say nay. Motion passes. Welcome to the village board.
Welcome.
Ben will walk you through everything we need to do. So
It'll be so much fun.
item C, resolution 26-10, resolution to deem all remaining fire department equipment as surplus and authorizing the sale of the equipment per the municipal code.
So this is just a kind of a wrap up to what we've been doing recently. We are in the process of selling the last kind of high value items in the fire department, which are the radios, chargers, and other equipment related to that. And instead of, if any other pieces of equipment reach that $5,000 threshold per piece under the code, This just will clear that off. We can just get rid of everything. We don't have to keep coming back to the board. There's not much, and I think that Trustee Baylor and President Kasdorf can speak to this as well. There's not much left that is of significant value. Most of that has been either equipped on the rigs, sold with the rigs, or has otherwise been sold off prior or repurposed within the village with the fire department or with the police department and the DPW. So there's very little that is worth much of anything, but just to kind of clear everything off, just
Short of the last rig, there's nothing that I believe is gonna hit over $5,000.
I agree. I think we're moving toward just getting like setting up lots of stuff, not lots of stuff, but a lot of this and a lot of that.
And put on auction.
And put on auction site as our next step. There's not much left.
No.
So this just kind of sums it all. So we don't have to keep coming back. That's what we're doing. this
correct. Just
resolution.
everything is surplus and we can move ahead with the sale of it per the conditions outlined in the code.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion for resolution 2610 to deem all remaining fire department equipment as surplus and authorizing the sale of the equipment per the municipal code.
I'll second it.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
On opposition, say nay. Motion passes. Item D, discussion and possible action on a memo of understanding between the Village of Butler, the Butler Public Library, and the Library Board of the Butler Public Library.
Sorry, there's lots of public libraries in there. Charlene, if you can please come up to the front. So this came as a result of last meeting where we discussed capital items. We were kind of talking about the library copier, and then after the meeting, there was some discussion internally on whether or not the copier would fall under the library 800 account or if it would fall under the capital account. This caused me to contact Charlene, and because I was made aware that there was some sort of agreement in place from many moons ago, and she was able to find a 2008 license agreement between the village and the library. After discussion, we both came to the agreement that a license agreement wasn't proper, where a license agreement is usually used when you're exchanging intellectual property or like software or whatnot. It's not really an agreement or a contract that you would have to utilize a space. I also didn't fully understand why we had a contract with ourselves to use the space, because the library is the village. We're one tax entity. If one of us broke the agreement, who would we sue? It would be suing ourselves. So it didn't really make any sense to me why we had that specific language in place. So instead, me and Charlene got together and said that it would be more appropriate for a memorandum of understanding where the village, the library, and the library board of the library agreed and understood that there were certain terms that we would kind of govern ourselves by. So Charlene did a very good job taking a crack at creating this memorandum of understanding. It has not gone before the library board yet. I'll just make that comment. But what this memo does is it clarifies certain items and brings the language up to what we do today. Because I believe, Charlene, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the language in the 2008 agreement, which neither of us could find a signed copy of, ironically enough, so we have no idea if it was actually executed or not. That the way that was being held or being conducted was somewhat different than what we do today.
Correct. And what Ben had asked me to do is document how things have been running for the past, well, at least the past 5 years, if not longer than that. So that's what you see in the memo here.
Correct. And one of the items that we particularly took a look at was the capital items. And so we specifically called out those capital items because the village owns the building of the library. And so obviously stuff like painting, carpeting, roofs, siding, windows, and stuff, that would all fall under the village's capital. And then I did discuss with Charlene that the definition of a capital project in the village is the $2,000 more used for more than 1 year definition. So with that, it is, of my opinion, based off of, and we can't really use the last time that the copier was purchased. And again, this is kind of calling out one singular item. It was purchased in the 100 account because we had not yet separated the library from the general fund. That happened in 2017 when we bought the copier. They were separated in 2018. So there's really not like a precedent necessarily set there on that. So it is of my opinion that it would be more of a capital item than doing that, because if we put that in the library budget, they would then probably come back and ask for more tax dollars to fund that anyways, because as Charlene has copies of, and did you hand that out to the board? You'll see that the vast majority of what their budget goes towards, which is about, I think, 63 to 65%, is related to payroll. And then the rest of their $142,000 is split up amongst everything else. So thank you. They're already covering the expenses relating to firewalls, IT security, and public computers.
Gary, you can use this one. I've got a personal share in this thing. Got one, I know. I recused myself.
Got one on the kitchen table already.
Yep.
So as you can see, she is highlighted, and I'll let Charlene speak to it more, but I'll just kind of call it out as there's certain state requirements with regards to patron programs. There's operating minimums that she has outlined, such as adult collection, youth collection, travel and training and material processing repair. There's, I believe, state requirements, Charlene, and I'll hand this off to you right after this, where you have to spend or fund certain things to be classified as being compliant under the law. So I guess if you want to kind of explain a little bit more on that.
Well, as Ben and I discussed, salaries and benefits is really the biggest chunk of our budget for service industry. So that's no surprise. Patron programs, I would like to call out to say a nice chunk of our budget is supplied by the Friends. So we always appreciate that. External costs, you'll see those are things like our electricity, items that come under contracted services, things that I skipped. All right, external costs, things like your utilities and our telephone, that sort of thing. We have no control over those costs, so that we are very conservative with the use of utilities and things like that. Those costs are what they are. So they're external, they're not controllable. Contracted costs, cleaning the carpets, making sure we don't have any four-legged pests in the library or eight-legged pests in the library. Items like that under contracted services. Those contracts are negotiated either by a director or in conjunction with the village. And I would say that our cleaning service hasn't raised their rates in 5 years. They're amazing. Service minimums, those are things we have to provide as a library. State statute, Bridges requirements. Bridges is our consortium of libraries that creates buying tools for us. And also our Waukesha County Library Services Plan dictates those kinds of things. So the technology we need to maintain, the contribution we make to the suppliers for ebooks, database licenses, things under service minimums, we're actually paying less than we would if we were paying independently as a library, because we are a part of the consortium. The operating minimums, those are things, again, driven by our Waukesha County Library Standards Plan and the state statutes. So we have to spend a certain amount of money to refresh the collection every year. It's actually calculated on the per capita, or 1748 or 1749, whatever we have, times $6 is the amount we have to spend every year. The $6 is set by Waukesha County and their standards. Operating minimums, yeah, I just went over that. Okay, office supplies, those things that we directly can control, take up about 0.5 of our budget. So by the time we meet all the requirements of having a library open, we control about 0.5% of our budget. Everything else are costs that they just, they're part of having a library. Yeah. And I guess that's it. What questions do you have? Either about the budget or about what's landed in this memo of understanding, which I will point out, the library board members have received a copy, but we have not had a chance to discuss yet.
I think it's important that for tonight, the real focus is on the agreement, because I have a lot of budget questions, which would be more for a budget meeting.
Right.
But
But I just wanted you to have context for this.
I
But yeah, you're right. There's a
I-
separate discussion there.
I think there's because there's that to me is a budget discussion. So I want to make sure I kind of separate it out a little bit. But on the agreement in front of us, I guess focusing on the capital improvement projects, I get that the village owns the building and the walls and the carpet. I get all that. But we've never paid for, out of our budget, your technology, your printers, your computers, your monitors. We've never had that come out of our budget.
That is all under library equipment and maintenance. Our personal computers, our library computers, so the computers that are at the front desk, our director's laptop, our computerized catalog. Remember the old card catalog? Now
Sure.
it's on the computer. All of that is in our operating budget.
Which would seem to conflict with this document.
So then I'm confused on the what's in front of us then for the memorandum of understanding number 6 lists that it talks about what a CIP would be. Items over $2,000 and lasting more than 1 year. So the village owns the library building. The CIP should include painting, carpeting, window treatments, upgrades to doors, windows. I get all that. The very last one on there is technology infrastructure such as copiers, printers. That's what I want to focus on, because I agree the village would be responsible for the heating and the air conditioning because that's part of the building. But I don't think a copier, to me, a copier is the same as your printer, your monitors. I mean, that in your server, that's always come under your budget, not the village budget.
We've never replaced our copier. I think that's why it's an outlier.
I was gonna say that was originally bought by the village for the library.
It was in the 100 account, correct,
Yes.
before it was separated out into the 800.
Correct, but the village bought that for the library specifically.
Correct, in 2017, yes.
Yeah.
I thought, and do you know the price on that? Because I would have been involved in that.
Back in the day, I think at that time it was like,
I have no idea.
I think it was more than $2,000. It was between $2,000 and $3,000 from what I looked at.
But we'll have to have another discussion on that, because I thought, and I could not find any paperwork on it, but I thought at that time, we had 3 old printers and copiers and we got rid of all that. I thought we had a deal with Milwaukee office that we just paid a little more per copy and they gave us the machine. I don't remember purchasing that machine.
See, that's what I had gathered from Kayla and why I thought that copier was under lease.
That's what I thought.
But Ben has some purchase price for it in his old budget, so.
Yeah, and like I said, I went back into the accounts payable, and there's a over $2,000 charge that was for the library copier.
But the copier, so like, the capital improvements, right? Heating and air, bathroom fixtures, the printer just doesn't fit in that scheme of what we own, right? It's more of what they need,
Correct.
right?
And
To run it, bathrooms we have to supply, right? Because,
correct. And
but
I
you
guess-
follow what I'm saying, and now, this copiers and printers just doesn't fit the definition.
correct. And I guess what I'll call out is 2 things. The first is you know, for the library has agreed to cover, again, any type of thing with the firewall, any like thing with their laptops, their computers and whatnot. Technically, those are usually over $2,000 and would normally be covered in the CIP under the village's CIP program. But the library is saying that they can cover that because we cover like that in the capital programs. Like my laptop, the police chief's laptop, any type of computer is covered in the CI is in the 701 account. So the library, again, what I want to emphasize here is it's not the village and the library necessarily, because we're one unit, we're one government. The state says we have to have a library or offer library services through a contract. So we are one unit. This isn't a us versus them type of thing.
Right.
It's more of like, you know, either way, we're going to end up funding it because they can't necessarily raise their revenues like we can, where like, okay, we, you know, if we increase our parking costs, our parking ticket costs, that's going to, you know, raise thousands more in revenue. They don't really have that ability to do that. They just can't do that. I mean, again, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but the other sources of income for you guys are very, very limited.
The primary source of income we have is our printing charges, sadly. And if you were to look at our run
Interesting.
rate for 2026, we're already low because as Suzanne told me, the printer was down for an entire week. So there was an entire week's worth of revenue out the door. As you can see in the budget document I gave you, we don't have room for that. And because we were operating under the assumption that it was a leased machine, we hadn't been planning for it either. But you're right. In order for us to meet the minimums that are required of us as a library, if we have to buy that copier, we're going to have to ask you for more money. Because we're already at the service level that is the absolute minimum for Waukesha County in terms of the hours that we're open. All right, we got 3 hours we could reduce. But that's going to get us not very much in
Right.
terms of saving. So we have operated on a shoestring budget for the 8 years that I've been involved with the library. Costs keep going up. We've been trying to be very conservative. We take advantage of our friends to have them contribute so much so that we don't have to budget for programming, which is a very important part of our service as well. If we didn't offer programming, we would not be meeting our requirements as a library. So there's a lot of moving parts in this. But to Ben's point, it's a village institution. And 550 people loved it a couple of weeks ago. Either we'll have to come to you with an increased budget next year, or we're going to have to decide how to categorize something as expensive as the copier that we need.
So
in order to get it as a capital improvement project.
What I'm bothered about is, and just on the copier and printer issue is, it's in your budget. You've been collecting the revenues. You did over 100,000 some copies in the last, I think, since inception, because it has,
Yeah.
we've done 100 something thousand copies. So you should be charging. So you've been collecting the money for that, but now you're asking for more money. So your revenue has it. You should have revenues. I understand there's staff copies and things like that, but we're not getting the revenues from that copier to buy you a new one.
You are not, because you're using that revenue to support our budget. We had a conversation a while back about, is there any way for the library to produce more revenue? Well, there really isn't. We can't, the library itself can't fundraise. We can rely on donations. We don't have a lot of people walking through the door with $2,000 checks for us. We use that revenue from the copier printing to support our entire budget, and we have done so for years.
And I believe, Charlene, when we had talked, basically what we give you covers the salaries and benefits. And then about 8 to 10,000, depending on the year, goes towards the rest of it. And then your donations, your grants, and your friends' donations and whatnot, and then your extraneous revenues through library fees and fines supports everything else.
Correct.
My question, and I'm in support of buying a damn copy machine, but the problem here is what I'm seeing as is we are treating one item over 2,000 that lasts more than 2 years one way. And what I'm hearing you say is other things that cost over 2,000, you're covering. I get it, and that's cool, but maybe if we listed it all the same way and said, you know, here are all the over $2,000 things that are going to last more than 2 years that the library needs. And by the way, we'll take care of these, and will you take care of that one? You know, I think that would actually be a better way of putting it in the memorandum, my personal feeling.
So listing out all those.
Yeah, because it's not, the copier is not the only technology you buy over 2,000 that lasts more than 2 years, right?
Correct.
Right, but that's the only one we're calling out here in the CIP.
Potentially the difference there, or not potentially, the difference there is that through our library consortium, we get perfect, really good prices for that other technology.
Yeah, I get that,
They're not by the copy.
but we are, I hear you, but in our member of understanding, we could say, hey, we get some really great prices, and we'll actually work on these other things that really ought to be listed as CIPs. We just need you guys to cover that one, right?
So-
Because there's a list of CIPs that are more than just this under technology infrastructure for the library. You just happen to be able to fit it in to other places. And you're not listing it as one of our CIPs.
So trustee Veronica, are you stating on page 3, under professional services, technology as such as staff computers, public use computers, and tablets required for library services and programs, are you stating that that bullet point should be moved down to paragraph 6 or subsection 6?
Yeah,
Okay.
and because they are technically meet our what we define as a CIP, right?
And then, yeah, correct.
So then we can have them defined correctly. They're listed correctly in the correct section. It's just said, you know, the library budget will take care of these 6 things. This one, the village board, can you take care of it? And that seems like a better way of listing
Under
it.
6, and then
Yeah,
you would be in favor then of listing out, like specifically then stating that the library budget would cover.
sure, absolutely. What I'm trying to get my head wrapped around, no, I'm new, obviously, right? Do we have this type of paperwork for the police department and for the DPW?
No, we do not.
So that's part of what I'm getting to now, right? You say we're one, but everything I've been seeing is separation. You have your own bank account with monies, and
No.
we just give
They have their own budget.
where was the money that they set aside that we couldn't touch? Like they had extra money that went into a different fund for them. right?
So what,
That was donated funds.
That was-
That we were left over from when they, the original appropriation fund for the library. Those are all donated funds. I have documentation for that.
So you're saying don't be controlled by the library,
So
not to
if-
help you to
The
see.
point is they were not taxpayer dollars. So we wanted that endowment because, you know, what we're facing ceilings and rising costs.
Right, but do you understand what I'm trying to
Sure.
say? Do you
Sure,
understand
I
what I'm
can-
trying to say is,
So-
you want us to be as one, but we don't have this type, that's what I'm trying to understand.
so if I understand the history of this, is the library and the village budgets were combined up until about 2018. They were then separated out for, again, I can't speak necessarily to that because I was not here, but for whatever reason, they were separated out where the library was put into their own special fund to basically track their spending and give them their own fund. And Charlene, tell me if you know if that's common, is that common, or Susanna, is that common with other municipalities to have a separate fund for the library?
It depends on the municipality. It really does. Some libraries are part of the general fund, some libraries are not.
Okay, so for whatever reason, the village board chose to separate it off into its own 800 fund. the money that gets brought in is allocated to that fund, but then commingled into the bank account. So what the two things that we did in the past couple of years is we took the fund balance from the library out of the commingled funds into a money market account, so then it can earn interest on that, just as we have for the sewer, the storm, the water, the debt service, and the capital. That has its own those own money markets. Then we also took the amount of money that we needed to have for the endowment and provided it to them. That in and of itself was also, because we took a chunk of money out of the fund balance that was in the money market. We took $10,000 out of that because it was around 24,000. Now it's around 14,000. We took 10,000 from that, moved into the commingled, then issued a check to Waukesha County Community Foundation. They now have that money. So then that is now able to be donated to and against, and that's earning interest on itself. So that, again, is part of the fund balance for the library that is earning money separate from what we are currently talking about now. So it's the money then is the library's money because it is their fund balance that they are allowed to spend on library things. It's not.
See, but we keep saying, like, you want to be together, but you keep saying the library's money, and that's what I'm not understanding, right? I mean, it's everything we're trying to do. I'm trying to understand it, right?
It's the same thing
It
as
seems
utility.
so separate, right? Everything we're talking about, it's always the libraries. It's separate, and I don't understand it. We have to have this kind of paperwork, but if it's all one, why do we have to have it? If we don't have it for the police, we don't have it for the DPW. It still falls under this board, and it doesn't seem to for the library.
And again, that's because back in 2018, the funds were separated. So this memorandum basically states that their fund is going to cover these expenses, and the 100 fund is going to cover these expenses. And it provides guidelines then for when the library board, because again, the library board under state law has the authority to spend the revenues given to the library, and the village board can allocate tax dollars, but we cannot specifically state to the library, you must spend money on this. That is completely the discretion of the library board itself.
Under the guidelines.
Under the guideline, yes.
The arrangement
of
is
the laws.
necessary per state statute. You know what I mean? So we, not necessarily that they have their budget as a municipality, and correct me if my assessment or my picture of view of this is wrong, but we're required by the state to have a library. So we have just in this case chosen to give them a bucket of money, and then they budget it, and that's where the accountability is, because we see their budget. And so it is still the village's money. They're just, accounting for what's spent out of that bucket, and then we get to see it. But it is still the village's money. It's just
With no
some
control.
terminology and some arrangement.
With no
Correct.
control.
When
I'm sorry?
It's the village's money with no control.
We have full control because we see their budget, and they're transparent
under
about it, where every
the
dollar goes. We
under
see
the
where
law,
every dollar goes.
the library board is appointed by the Butler Village Board. So at any point in time under state law, if the board is not in your opinion being financially sound or financially wise, where they're just blowing through money, they're abusing their authority, you can get rid of them. Under the law, you have that ability because you are the appointing body, that you can call them to the carpet, as it were, and remove them from the seat. If you do not think that's kind of the accountability mechanism, is if you don't believe that they are representing the village's interest, you can remove them from the seat that they have and reappoint somebody that you believe is going to support the village's mission.
In that point, they have to be reappointed. If you take them out, somebody has to be put back into that position.
Correct.
You cannot eliminate it.
Correct.
Correct.
So what's the latest, I don't know the exact number, but I thought the minimum spend for us, for the library, and I don't want to get into a budget discussion, but it's close. The minimum spend was about 85,000, I think, was the minimum that we had to spend in
I
the
would
past.
have to look because the formula was updated this year.
Right.
That's the number I.
And that's to avoid the special library tax.
That's
Correct.
a special library tax, which you would get even if you still had a library building sitting there. It
Correct.
really can't be print out.
Correct.
No.
So the one point that comes to mind in that discussion is that if I'm saying 85, it might be 90,000. We're at 142,000, which is catching me a little bit off guard because I didn't know we were up that high.
No,
But
that's the total budget. We give them, I think, a little over 100.
yeah, we give them 100,
970 for last year.
109,
101.
101.
970.
Yeah, and that's been pretty consistent over the years. So,
Which is good.
but there's, I remember that formula. That's the minimum that you should operate the library at.
That is the minimum for you guys not to have to tax your taxpayers
Correct.
for a library.
It's a minimum.
It is not the minimum that we can operate at.
I understand.
Those minimums,
It's,
we're operating at those minimums with this budget.
So when you say we don't have to tax anybody, so where are we getting the money? It's from tax, right? I mean,
no, separate
I was
tax,
just
separate
saying.
tax.
There'd be a separate tax.
The county. So there's a resolution
right,
that,
which would then alleviate.
no.
No, it would not. No, it
So
would not.
where's the $100,000 gonna go that we're giving them now
So
then?
the
If-
special-
I'm
the
just trying to
special-
understand, right?
Yeah, the special revenue, the special library tax, we pass a resolution every year, I believe in September, October-ish, August. That basically certifies that we are meeting the requirements of the Waukesha County Library. So I get an email from Bridges. And so that tax, if we did not meet that minimum threshold, they would then levy a tax on the residents above. So if we cut the taxpayer contributions to the library to below where that standard would be, that would then incur another tax on top of our property taxes already that would then have to, by law, go to the library.
Put on by the county.
Put on by the county, levied by the county, and then given to us to then spend on the library.
And that I understand. So it really comes down to my sticking point is you have your own library board, you have your own spending authority. We approve your budget, but your board then decides how to spend it from there.
And we tell you every month
Well,
how we're spending.
right. And I don't argue that.
Transparency is really where we want to be with that.
So
Sorry.
I really am stuck on this copier and printer because I don't think that should be, you don't seek approval from us for like monitors, computers, servers, cameras. You've never done that before. You've put it into your budget,
Yeah,
but your board determines that. So the copier really should be coming from your board and put into your normal library budget, not under the village budget.
Yeah, I disagree with you, Mr. President, and I'll tell you why. And because we are allowing ourselves to list something that's over 2,000, meets the definition of a CIP to not be listed as a CIP. So it's not the board's problem. It's our problem for allowing the board to say, we'll cover these CIPs, but not calling them CIPs.
So how about if I come back with a list of all those things?
Yeah.
that meet your CIP definition?
Well, it's ours. It's not just, it's ours, right?
Yes, it is ours.
It's
because-
our CIP, and all we do is instead of telling the chief to spend the money, we're telling a board to spend the money. That's the only difference here.
Absolutely, right?
And we do.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
We-
so if the
we do.
board says to us, under our definition of 2,000, here's all the CIPs that we buy. Can you please buy this one for us? And I think that would be a nice thing to show, and maybe that would help explain everything. Yeah,
And you don't want the revenues from that copier coming back to the village?
it does go into the
It
village.
does go into the village.
But it goes into
In
their
reality,
budget.
it does.
And
because
they're
every-
spending more than we're giving them.
Isn't their budget our budget?
It is.
It's exactly,
I don't,
exactly.
I mean, we can give you back the revenues, but then we have to ask for the taxpayer
Yeah,
dollars.
based on what?
If I give you 2 cents on every dollar, are you gonna yell at me for 2 cents? You're not making any sense here, Mr. President. You're not making sense to me. You're getting me a little frustrated. I'm trying not to blow up here.
but that's what why are we selecting? Okay, so let me ask Ben this. Is the library bound by our CIB program?
The definition and policy that the auditors and the all of the people that we deal with, the definition that has been handed down by the board that we've included in the budgets is the $2,000. That is a policy that has been set by the board at some point in the past,
By the village board.
by the village
And is the
board.
library board bound by that?
It is my opinion that yes, it is.
That's where I'm not arguing, Bill. I'm just trying to understand why we would be stepping on the toes of the library board.
Okay, from this point, we, the village board here, have never done anything as far as that particular machine. It has been with there since 2018 and it's never come up to us to renew it, to buy another. So we've never had this discussion before. This is the first time that copier has come forward to where it needs to be replaced. Up until now, they've been able to keep it running. But now, because of the finances, nobody in the library board has put in to build a budget for that. Because they assumed, from what I hear, that it was done on a lease program, which technically it was not. So they've been assuming that they don't have to put money away. They've been using the money, the income from the copies for their own budget to try to offset what they get from the village. Now, to me, the copier is part of the village.
I mean, whether it's part of the village or not, the way Ben explained funding for the copier, just to me, it makes more sense for the village to pay it rather than, it's easier for us to fund that rather than to have the library try to fund it, which I think, creates another move that they have to change their budget request to the village. It's the copier machine. It's not the end of the world.
Either way, the money's going to have to
Yeah, it's
I
just-
get
have to
that.
get spent and allocated. It would just basically be what fund is it getting put into.
yeah, I'm okay with this as it's written.
Well, I will be happy to come back with that list of items so that you can see what it is.
Yeah, I mean, if that is our definition, and regardless of if you're, you're using the allocated funds to cover this, or it's something in addition, that's irrelevant. If there's things that are over 2,000 that we're buying in the lasting 2 years, those should all be listed as CIPs, and they're being funded, right? Who they're being funded by is another discussion. If we're gonna say it comes out of their big pot, then we're gonna add to their big pot.
But if they're gonna add it to the big pot, then we, the village board, have to give them more money
Yeah.
in order to compensate.
Right.
Because
The
they
money's
need-
still coming from us regardless if we give it to them in a budget or we don't.
Exactly.
But here's back to my point is that they didn't know about it not being leased, and it goes back to my feeling is that there's a disconnect between the we,
Yes, exactly.
right?
Absolutely.
Because it seems like you guys are like, whoa, we don't own the building. And this is my feeling, so please let me finish, okay? My feeling is, and since I've been on this board, the library has been kind of like this little ghost thing for me, right? That I don't quite understand it. I came to a meeting and it wasn't the most helpful, but at least for me personally. But I want it to be more cohesive, right? And I'm just not seeing it. Just in your wording, the libraries, the mine, the yours, and we can't control certain things. We can't control heat. Well, we can control heat. We can control costs. You always have some control over costs. To just go like this and go, we just can't control them I don't believe is the case, right? But I can't get my head wrapped around. It feels a lot like a disconnect. And you can go as far as you want, Bill, because you have a personal connection more
Back off.
to
here.
it. I'm not
Back
backing off of
Because
anything.
When you say that you can.
I'm trying to figure out why
How
we're,
can you turn the gas bill from up here in the building?
you can control temperature in the building. You
They
control.
do that right now.
Well,
They drop it down when they're not
they
there.
say
They
it's uncontrollable, right? So, but what I'm saying is that there's, I'm sorry that I'm trying to figure out how this works and that upsets you, Bill.
No,
That upsets you that I'm trying to figure this out to how this is actually operating when it's different from the other things that were supposedly are a we.
And I think, Trustee Baylor, to hopefully help answer the point, I think is that we've been operating under the the us versus them type of mentality for a while. And that's where the language has been baked into as, the village this and the library that. And I think that trying to kind of come back together on that is going to take a little bit of time. And again, right now I'm happy to answer any of the questions that you have. Again, I think that there's a little bit of some of the wording also, I think, is because the whole the state mandate on, like, we can't touch the library's money, as it were. Yes, it's the village's money, but we call it the library's money because technically they are the only ones allowed to spend it under the laws as they're written. So I think that there's just a little bit of consternation there.
Well, there is, and it's disheartening to me
What if,
that when questions are asked about this, that it's, for me anyways, my view on it, it's constantly seen from parts of the library as an attack. And I don't have any, because I don't understand it fully. And that's what I'm trying to do. And that's my responsibility, is to understand it. But when I ask questions and I get,
My
stuff
frustration.
like that, it doesn't help anything. It doesn't help us get any farther ahead in this whole conversation when mine's a question. And other board members can laugh at the questions I ask, right? And smirk about them. But it's disheartening to me that that's how that is. And it is a us and a we. And that's how it's been since I've started on this board.
Yeah, Suzanne, if you want to come up.
Hey, Savannah Schroeder, library director. One of the things I want you to know is I keep the heat at 65 degrees during the winter time. That is one of the ways that I try to control some of my costs. And the lights go off in the evenings. Like, I'm very conscientious about price. But the thing about the copier printer that I think is not quite understood is that we don't have printers. We just have the one machine. And so that's used by the staff. It's used for all the programming. And it's used as a service to people in Butler. People from Brookfield as well. So it's not just something that is only for, we use it probably for people. The copy around 8 days. Ben knows, like, I'm constantly asking for service. And then also Ben was a rock star because he allowed me to copy the tickets that we had for Train Festival. And I appreciate that.
So, Eric, our purpose is not to get into an argument with the village board or with you. We'd love to answer your questions. We'd love to have you come back to a meeting and ask questions at the meeting. If it's not working for you and there's stuff you want to know, we're pretty informal. We do follow a couple of rules, but we're pretty informal. So any of the village board members, I send you an agenda every month, are welcome to come and ask questions about things you don't understand. One of the unique things, and I don't know if it's unique, but one of the things about a library is we are part of the village. We're governed by the village through the work we do jointly with the village on our budget. We're also governed by state statutes and Waukesha County Library Service Plan. So we have a number of different bosses.
Yeah, and then the additional tax, by the way, it's 20 cents per $1,000 of home value.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
It's part of the state statute. So it's chapter 43, but we'll walk Waukesha County.
So if we're all considered one, and I get it, why do we have this $50 thing for normal building maintenance? And that goes back to the original 08. That was in there from 08. So I guess I'm a little confused on that. Like, why do we even have it?
I'm guessing that that's so that we're not bothering you for things like light bulbs, which go into the fixture, which are hardwired into the building. But I could be wrong.
Well, I think it also was to keep control over costs as well. Yeah.
It almost seems like that should be taken out as we move forward with this document. It seems, if it's our money, no matter what, I mean, if we're commingling the funds, why?
Well, I
would
think,
we
I think
stick
part of
with
the memorandum is just to make sure that as we change, there's a document that shows what was decided upon.
And as the library changes.
As the library changes, the library board changes, and we change, then there's something that we can fall back on and go, how did we deal with this in the past? It's obvious that we didn't keep good records. Somebody didn't, right? And there's some question on it. And that's why I think it's so important that if there is a memorandum put together, that we all are following the same definition. If there's things that are in there that go over 2,000 last years, they all ought to be listed as CIPs. And it doesn't matter whose pocket, right-hand pocket or left-hand pocket it's coming out of. It's all coming out of our bank. But it ought to be seen here, because I think the confusion is going in is technology infrastructure is maybe limited to only those things listed, which it's really more than that. And it's more when we're thinking about capital projects, following our definition, it's more than what's just there. And I think that's what I think is throwing off this conversation, because we're keying in on the copy or printer, but really there's a whole bunch of CIPs that are fit into their budget. And this one happens to be one that's not fitting at this moment.
Yeah, and again, I think that part of the whole MOU is also just to decide again where are the funds going to be allocated to? You know, is it going to be the 800 or the 701 or the 100 account for, let's just say, the building maintenance? So I think it's just to guide the village on how to budget what line items need to have those costs included in it. So again, if the library is going to be covering, you know, their salaries and their benefits, well, then we obviously don't have to have that in the 100 account. We can put that in the 800 account, and that's what their money and their fundraising and stuff is going to help cover. So I think that's, again, part of the reason why we have this, is just to kind of help guide, since their board passes a budget, creates a budget that they then send, because correct, your library board does approve and review the library's budget, correct?
We do. We review, we work with you.
Correct.
And any of the members of the board that want to come to the meetings when we're talking about it, to figure out what the right amount to spend is. And
Correct.
we give you that proposal.
Correct. And that's what I'm getting at, is like, you guys do pass a budget of sorts, a recommendation to the village, and that this MOU would help guide your decision making on what you're budgeting. So, okay, hey, we have to cover the library collection, so that means that we have to allocate this amount of money. We can't move that up into housekeeping supplies. So that's what this MOU is kind of outlines, what you're like. The village isn't going to cover this in their portion of in the 100 account, and we need to, since you guys are the ones that pass that recommendation and spend that money. That's, again, I think what the whole purpose of some of this is.
Should the CIP be in their budget? Should that be a line item in the library budget?
If it is a line in their library budget, kind of like how it is in the utilities. Again, the utilities are a whole separate animal because they're enterprise funds, not this type of fund. Then if it was in there, then again, it would be the increase in the dollar contribution to the library. So in theory, there could be a capital item. It would just have to be accompanied by an increase in tax dollars.
To me, that makes sense, because it's their budget. So it just seems like their capital improvements should be in their budget. It should, because we're separating out what we're doing.
And I think that's why the list of what they're going to bring, of what they spend on items that meet our definition, I think that actually will help clarify all the different CIPs that they pay for.
And I think that as just a counterpoint to that, I think that I'm a little bit hesitant, just because then that will kind of cause these ebbs and flows of taxpayer dollars to them. And I guess one of those things where I don't want to, like, if you guys go up to us, instead of like the 101, we give you $7,000 for the copier. And so that goes up to now, 109. Then next year, that's going to come down because we're not going to be having that capital expense. So
Makes
then,
sense, yeah, that makes sense what you're saying.
and then, as long as, again, there's the knowledge that when you have these things, that there's going to be these temporary bumps, and that should not, again, if the library director should change over, the library board president, there needs to be that institutional knowledge that carries over, that when they get in there, like, oh, I got $110,000 this year because I had it last year. So I know that we're probably going to have that. Well, that's not necessarily the case.
Right. So how about if we consider, tabling this for some clarification on what those CIPs would be? We can discuss, Ben, the library people, president, and so on. Anybody who needs, more definition on that can talk about that, but come back with maybe slightly retooled document that clarifies some of those CIPs. We can take a look at it again. It seems like we're at a little bit of an impasse now.
Okay, I got one thing. If we could, looking at it from their standpoint, they need that copier for the everyday use
Yeah.
now.
So something to do now, yeah.
Right. And that's my only concern is they need it now. They've needed it 8 days ago, when I went down. So from my standpoint, we figure it out later, but we buy the computer. The village, buys the copier and puts it in there, and we figure out as a board with them on how we're gonna work with this from here on.
Sure.
That's not an agenda item though.
Yeah.
I understand.
We didn't do
I think, so I think there should be a whole discussion, another discussion on just the copier part of it. Because, for example, the police department have 480,000 on their copier and they need one as well.
Mhm.
So I would like Ben to go back and maybe talk to the office supply store and just see what they're, because we're paying a monthly fee per copy and I thought that covered maintenance.
It covers, we don't pay a separate, when Susanna calls somebody out, or the police department calls somebody out, or I call somebody out, we don't get charged for that.
It's a monthly fee.
That is part of the service contract.
Yes.
Yes.
So what's happening, I guess, what's happening with your machine that it's been down for 8 days? or-
It's 10 years old
I
versus,
understand, but-
and the other ones are much newer than that. So I think that's likely the cause.
Obsolete.
Ours was manufactured in 2014, actually. That's the date on the side.
12 years old.
Repair
Parts
guy
anymore.
Came out, replaced the car, calibrated it, came back, what, a week later, had to
No, it
recalibrate
was
it.
2 days later.
2 days later,
I
had to
recalibrated.
recalibrate it. So there are parts wearing on it,
Mhm.
even though it's a copier that does have the moving
In
parts.
the
that are
last couple
wearing.
of months, I think we've had 3 cars replaced on it. And then the other guy has to come out and calibrate it because the first guy didn't do it the right way or whatever. I'm not certified to fix those things, so all I can do is call. So it's aggravating.
What was the purpose of putting the item down specifically to the memorandum, hoping that if we passed the memorandum, we would just buy the copier? Was that the idea why it was just
It
the
was
memorandum put,
is
not
to call it out.
Okay,
Because there was after the meeting, there was some questions asked
Okay.
on that.
Okay.
So it was a specific call out. And also again, where the previous agreement had no mention of technology replacement whatsoever in it. So we didn't want to just blanket say, because again, we were trying to mirror what we currently operate under, which is the library covers the computers. And we didn't want to just put a line item that said technology, because that they cover the computers, but again, that's, they have that buying pool and all that stuff, that we didn't want it to necessarily apply directly to a possibly $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 printer.
Mhm.
Because in price wise and utility wise, it's two separate things.
yep, they're very expensive and that's why it's a contentious item. Yeah, I get it.
All right, so let's set up another, I think we need a table on this one with some, I'd like to see the $50 thing go away, to be honest. That doesn't make sense to me. It's in there a couple times, but there's billing back and forth and that, I've never understood that. It's number 7, second one from the bottom. But so I'd like to have a discussion about that. I think the next meeting, we could have a discussion on the printer or the copier and make, that was new in 2017, 2018. So I'm a little confused why the sticker says 2014. That, I wonder if they gave us an old machine.
Or use one.
I've only been here for a year.
Could have been. So let's look into that a little bit further and see what we come up with, maybe get some quotes for that discussion.
And I can talk to Milwaukee Office Products because they are the ones that we purchased it from, and I can ask if it was a refurbished, just to get clarification. It would just be an email to Craig.
And maybe they can give us some pricing on leasing and stuff like that, but that should be a separate, if you need that now, that should be a separate discussion.
Thank you. And I want to reiterate, you are always welcome to the library board meetings, especially when we're talking about budget.
Right.
So that you know where we're coming from.
All right.
In terms of what our responsibilities are. Because we try very hard to fit ourselves into what the village needs to be, what our village needs to be doing in terms of fiscal responsibility. And it's really where we're coming from.
Does anyone else have, other than the things we've discussed, any other suggestions or what they'd like to see for the next round of this understanding?
I will say that we have a MOU with our Friends group for the reason that you mentioned. When personnel changes, people get confused. What do we cover? What do you cover? So that's actually coming from the corporate world, we had a lot of these.
Well, and from the people that I know that are on village boards and other municipalities, libraries are contentious on a number of levels for whatever reason. What we're going through right now plays out all over the place. It's just a goofy arrangement, with the state, and it's a service, and it's all our money, but there's the separateness and all this, what we're going through is not unique to us.
No.
But the goal is the same. We want a
Sure.
literate, informed public. We can vote for guys.
Yeah.
And that's where we're at.
The other line, one other change is under building maintenance. It says keeping the sidewalk ice-free, including shoveling minor accumulations of snow. And then in parentheses, it says less than 1 inch. I'd like to see that deleted. They should be doing that. I don't want,
DPW does the.
Correct.
snow clearance during open hours. We don't call them back to say, hey, there's an ice slick outside the front door. We expect the staff to take care of that.
correct. I just don't want us tied to the language of 1 inch. That's all. Because they do keep up with it to the best of their ability, but if we have it in writing, there was more than 1 inch, that could cause a problem.
Yeah. For
That-
turn.
So I would just,
Minor
yes.
accumulation.
So just delete out the less than 1 inch and then everything else is fine.
So I have, President Castor, can I put you down as making the motion to table to update the CIP listing, reach out to the copier company, strike the 1 inch wording from snow removal, and strike the $50 maintenance expense.
Yes.
Oh.
I make yep.
I'll second that.
Make a motion as stated.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for everything.
you.
Motion's been made and second. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All in opposition, say nay. Motion passes. Motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to adjourn. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
On opposition, say nay. Motion passes. Thank you.
Hooray.
We are all playing on the same team.
Yep.